But if we get hacked, who's going to control the show? The bad boys, the fuck boys, or the hack boys?
Wow, you are doing it with the words you're saying.
Just nothing but net. Nothing but net over here.
Swish, swish, swish. All right, you ready?
That's a fisherman saying, right?
What, nothing but net?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a fisherman's... I had to think about that. That joke was so stupid, I had to fucking think about it. Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 19 of the 40K Badcast. My name is Dan Boyd, and I'm joined by my extremely talented, handsome, and sexually provocative co-host, Campbell McLaughlin.
Two of those things are true.
And we'll never know which two. Campbell.
Yeah.
It happened.
What happened?
We were on vacation. And then we had to push the show back a week.
Yeah, that's true.
Sorry, everybody. Last week, we were supposed to do our show, but the week before that, so 2 weeks ago, both Campbell and I were on vacation. Not together, and we didn't really do anything for that week. So we didn't really have much of a show to talk about. But we're back now. Sorry we're a week late, and we are ready to talk about Warhammer 40K. Let's get right into it, and let's turn on the old Auspex and see what's on our Campbell radar. Or fucking shit. Oh my God, I am. My brain is outpacing my mouth at the moment. This is good. Cool. Campbell.
You're just as good as I am. Well, now that I'm done with my vacation and I can talk about 40K again, let's talk about my vacation. I went to Portland, Oregon. And
hey, I've been there.
Yeah, it's lovely, especially compared to Portland, Maine, or God forbid, Portland, Connecticut. And
did we talk about how Oregon was almost named Boston, Oregon?
Yeah, and then I was thinking, why would they name it after something it could never measure up to?
Ooh. I was thinking, why would they name it something so shitty?
Well, again,
them's fighting words. I don't know why I'm singing it like a country song. Or snapping my fingers. But
I'll put a boot in your ass for the old red, white, and blue. But while I was over there...
I love this bar and grill. That's a Toby Keith reference.
Okay, I was thinking it's a bar and grill, which is also probably something a lot of country music fans are familiar with. Anyway, while I was down there, I didn't get any games or painting in, obviously, but I did manage to step into Guardian Games, which is this fucking massive, cool game store with like all these back rooms. They have a bar in there in the 40K area, and they have floor-to-ceiling games, and it's like 20 feet high ceilings. And I just killed like an hour and a half in there looking at cool stuff. They had some old rare stuff. They do some consignment stuff, some bits box sort of stuff you can just roll through. So I picked up some of the old Forge World Titan crew that they just happen to have lying around there. And also, afterwards, I got to go to Powell's Books, which is a similarly massive used bookstore in Portland. And while I had to do some digging, I was able to find not one, not two, but all three of the Inquisitor Trilogy books by Ian fucking Watson.
Yes!
So, for those who have not been listening since the start of the show, Ian Watson wrote Space Marine, which is a gonzo bonkers book that I highly recommend reading just to kind of gawk at, and I hope these three books are even half as weird as the story of Beth Tundrish and his friends.
A lot of space vaginas in Ian Watson's Space Marine.
Yeah, farting Tyranids, squats getting their eyeballs popping out like Ratfink. It's a great book.
I'm excited for some potential very good Factor fan fiction coming from Mr. Ian Watson.
Yeah, I mean, the well of actual fan fiction is bottomless, but the well of Black Library fiction, strange enough to actually pass for fan fiction, is a little more nebulous. It's a little harder to pin down.
Well, I'm very excited for you, man. I was really, really excited when you showed me the pictures of your finds at the bookstore.
Yeah, I sent that. I don't remember if I sent it to you or Dylan. They're like, oh yeah, you should grab this one if you're going to grab one of them. And it's like, fuck no, I'm grabbing all three. I need to know the story of all these people.
Yeah, that was me.
All right, cool.
I got to imagine, like, you are at the game store or the bookstore in Portland, and you're probably with your girlfriend, and you're like, babe, I just want to go in here for a couple minutes. And she's like, all right, just for a couple minutes. And you're like, nice. And then you just, like, going around through, like, the maze of books or games or whatever, and you're, like, listening for her, and you hear her coming, and then you sneak over to the next aisle or whatever to keep your time in there. That's what I imagine happened.
Yeah, it's kind of like Metal Gear Solid, but No, at the game store, we went in and she's like, "Can you kill like an hour here?" And I was like, "Yes, I can. Go do what you want to do."
That will not be a problem.
So yeah, I got to do that. Then hit up a couple of the breweries that are in walking distance of there because of course they are.
Well, if you're talking about vacations, then I'm going to talk about my vacation.
All right.
I was in beautiful New York City for New York Comic-Con.
Neato.
Which I did not do any gaming, but I spent a lot of money on comic books.
Neat.
And got drunk a few times and had a really great time. We stayed in Bushwick in Brooklyn, which I had never been to before. Very nice. A lot of good food in that area. A lot of good times, man.
Very cool.
It's a cool thing going to cons.
Yeah, not just ham ones.
The ham ones are the best.
Ham ones are the best.
All right, let's get into it, man.
Ooh.
We're back. What have you been working on?
So, obviously I haven't gotten a ton of painting done, but since the last episode, I was able to finish Contemptor Dreadnought that I've been working on. I haven't gotten to put it on the field yet, but I'm pretty excited to. I painted up a 5-man Crusader squad with a las cannon and plasma gun, just a little fire support unit, and they're all done. I just varnished them yesterday. I'll get some pictures.
You love your las plas squads now.
Dude, I'm rocking that 2004 meta.
That's great, man. I'm glad you finally got current. We already used this joke.
Oh, yeah.
So Crusaders, I don't remember this though. I don't remember this. Crusaders at 5 men get to a special and a heavy weapon.
Yep.
That's pretty rad, man.
You know, we're catching up on old jokes just like I'm catching up on old competitive strategies. It's fantastic. I also built a 5-man Devastator squad with 3 heavy bolters and the las cannon and the little Armorium Cherub, which I gave a scout helmet or one of the helmets I use my scouts instead. So it's like a failed tiny aspirant. And he lets the guy fire twice, which is pretty fucking cool. So built them and the anniversary or whatever limited edition Terminator Captain you could only get at store openings or whatever. I had him, so I built him up. I did a little bit of Templaring to make him look cool. And yeah, he's primed now. I haven't gotten to get to them yet.
Well, it's awesome, man. I have not been nearly as successful as you've been with your hobby progress, but I am about 90% done with my first unit of aggressors for my Primaris Raven.
Oh, cool.
They paint up actually very quickly.
Really?
Yeah, because they don't have like a bunch of like leather straps and stuff.
True.
And there's no skin on any of the models. I used all helmets.
Yeah.
So that cuts out like 2 of my base coats right there.
Are you doing white helmets in them or black helmets?
Black helmets on the regular guys, white helmet on the sergeant.
Are you painting the white helmet like held separately, like on a paperclip or thumbtack or something like that, or is it just recessed in there and you're painting in there?
It's just recessed in there.
All right.
Well,
you can do it that way. You
got a problem with that?
I mean, if you want to do it the sloppy way, you can do it that way. Or
it's not fucking sloppy, Campbell. It looks great.
Well, I expect to see pictures soon, so I can make that. I expect to see pictures soon, so I can make that judgment for myself.
No. I don't need you and your mushmouth bullshit to make judgments about my models. They look fucking great.
Yeah, they do look dope. Your Raven Guard are next level. Like, I love how your Steel Legion look.
I'm not
but
painting
the
back of the fucking helmet. You can't even fucking see it. It's in a hood. They got hoodies. Now you're making me feel self-conscious about my models.
You shouldn't feel self-conscious about your models. They're beautiful.
Oh, God damn it. I'm also feeling somewhat inadequate because you're like, oh, I went on vacation, and then I finished like 2 squads and a dreadnought, and I was like, yeah, well, I painted most of 3 models.
Yeah, they're bigger models, though.
No, I'm pathetic, and you're the best.
Aw.
Everybody knows this. You work on anything else?
As far as ham stuff goes, I've got a pile of commission stuff coming up right now, unfortunately, which I'll get to in a minute after talking about my games played.
You are doing commission work?
It's for a friend. So it's
cool.
It's not the typical commission work type stuff.
I thought you were like trying to like tease like, hey everybody, I'm Campbell and I'm starting a commission studio off the back of my super popular podcast.
Yeah, no, I'm not doing commissions again. I'd rather put bamboo shoots under my fingernails and shoot myself in the head. I hated doing commissions and I'm never doing that again. Painting for a friend as a favor or in exchange for whatever, that's fine, but I'm not doing commissions.
Goods and services.
Hey, it's discreet, it's tax-free.
Let's before we talk about games played, because we're gonna have a discussion in a little bit that involves our games played. Let's go with new releases next and talk about stuff that's coming out now. Something we talked about a few months ago when we went to Adepticon is finally hitting shelves, and it's Shadespire.
Yeah, it looks really good.
So I haven't played it since we played it at Adepticon, though my buddy Mike got a copy of it and has been trying to get me to come over and play it.
Nice.
Looks like a ton of fun, man. The whole deck building, the arena combat.
Yeah, it just seems super tactical, super tactical even. And I like that there's already more warbands coming out, and they've teased at least 2 more, or I think at least 4 more, with like Skaven, Dwarfs, and all that stuff. So there's a lot of support coming for it down the line. I like that it's a game you can play in like half an hour. I like that you can also have a fully painted force in like 5 models or whatever. So I also haven't played it since, we were at Adepticon, but I was looking through White Dwarf this month, with the cover of like Beef Chunk McLarge Huge on the front with his massive chin.
But, and his like weirdly flowing hair.
Yeah, I
standing next to a fan.
Not huge on that artwork of him, but anyway, I read through the battle report in there of the game, and yeah, it looks even cooler. And they're putting out all the painting videos and so on. I'm pretty excited to play it. I want to play it really bad. I liked it a lot. I think it has a lot of room to expand outwards without getting too bloated, hopefully. And I haven't picked up a set for myself yet, but when I do, I was thinking, have you seen the actual art on the cards and like on the box and all that?
I have. Yeah.
It's kind of like this washed out bluish, like shadowy look to everything. And when I pick it up, I think I want to try to paint in that style. I want everything to look kind of murky and dark and kind of stylized instead of going for the typical look I go for.
Well, I'm very interested in seeing how that turns out.
Yeah, I think it's going to involve mixing a lot of colors, but when you're only doing like a squad of 3 guys or whatever for a warband, mixing colors shouldn't be that big a deal. So I'm definitely looking forward to picking myself up a copy of Shadespire.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to pick up a copy of the whole thing. I do want to pick up those Skellies, though.
Yeah.
The Sepulchral Guardians or whatever they're called.
Yeah.
I don't fucking remember. They got some good old names, some good old GW names on them. But I want to pick up those Skellies just because I like Skellies, and I haven't painted a lot of Skellies in a while. Skelly. And it's also going to be Halloween soon, so I figured, why not get some Bony Bros in there? Another thing that they've been talking about as far as maybe not new releases, but what's upcoming is the Craft World Eldar are going to be getting their codex soon.
Yeah, they've been doing the previews and showing off new, strategies and stratagems and like the sort of world.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff in there. I'm not super familiar with how Eldar play in 8th because haven't really played any Eldar in 8th yet. Mm-hmm. I certainly haven't played as any Eldar because I don't have any fucking Eldar armies, but I haven't even played against Eldar really. And I played one a long time ago. Not a long time ago, obviously, because it came out in June, but right after it dropped, and it was Hemlock Wraith Fighters and a bunch of Guardians, and it was just like, ignore the Wraith Fighters, kill the Guardians, and then I won.
Save for the game at Adepticon I had against those Yunari, pretty much every game against Eldar I've played for the last 3 editions has been me putting my models back in their foam. So I'm not really excited to see them get the new codex, but whatever, cool. If you play Eldar, great. I look forward to losing against you at some point.
It looks like they got some pretty interesting combos in there. Like a Yondan can psych out their, not dreadnoughts, but their constructs, their Wraithbone constructs.
Wraith guys, yeah.
And make them have double attacks and stuff. And seems like might be a cool thing. I don't know how Index Eldar rates on the scale of what's good or what's not at the moment, but I gotta imagine Codex Eldar is going to be a lot better.
Yeah, I would be surprised if it wasn't. Because I know there was some wacky stuff in there, like Guardians had Dire Avengers had their Shuriken catapults cost like 7 points a man, so you had like T3 1 wound models at like 17 points a guy, which was more than a little bit silly. So I think he'll probably put a kibosh in some of that shit.
That seems expensive.
Yeah, it really is when you consider Guardsmen are about the same durability and cost like 4 points.
It's true, they do.
So, here's a new release, Moonbase Crisis. I think that's how you pronounce it.
Crisis.
It is the battlefield in a box, and it is just a bunch of cardboard tiles that are double-sided to be a moon base on one side or kind of like a brown, earthy, almost Marsy looking thing on the other side, and includes some really cool ruins. And I was like, that's really cute. If I was, new to the game or like younger, I would have loved to get this set because it's so. It is a battlefield in a box. Like, it's not a ton of terrain or anything like that, but it's a nice little storage solution, and it packs away tight.
Is it a 6x4?
No, and that's my problem. It's like 5x8 by 3 by 3'6". Like, it's 5'8" by 3'6". It's just a little bit too small, and I don't know why they didn't make it just a little bit bigger.
Maybe Do they know that everybody plays Warhammer on 6x4 tables?
It's almost like they make multiple, like $300 6x4 plastic boards that you can buy. It's almost like they might have some inkling on that, knowing that that's the regular size 40K's played on.
Yo, for real though.
Yeah.
Don't buy this, people. Go to Table War, get a fucking fat mat. Buy one of those. Those things fucking rule.
It's gonna cost about the same, if not less. And while it doesn't have the terrain, you can still just get an Imperial Sector or whatever. Like, I would like the ruins in that set. I don't really need the tiles.
I was on the phone with Doug Johnson for like an hour last week.
Huh.
Yeah, we were talking. He's doing great. We were talking about. He had some AV questions, and we were just catching up, talking about 40K. That's a good dude, man. Really like that guy.
Yeah. So
Doug, here's a free plug. Everybody go to Table War. Don't buy Moonbase Clysis. Go buy a fat mat. They're way better.
They are,
and they're fucking
good.
6x4.
And they just finished their Kickstarter for the Geomat. I think they finished it, or they put out the Kickstarter for it, but it's like a...
Yeah, it got funded.
It's the mat overlay thing for role-playing games, which is super cool.
Yeah, if you like role-playing games.
Nothing wrong with that.
I mean, I've played them. I don't have a group nowadays.
You're not RPG curious?
I'm not I mean, I've played them in the past, but like the people that I know around here that are into at least the systems that I like are not people I want to spend an evening with.
I understand completely.
If you get my drift. Anything else that's come out that you're interested in?
As for new stuff,
okay. Well, we're gonna move on, and we wanted to hold off a little bit on talking about our games played. We're gonna get to them because our big discussion that we want to have this episode is about codex balance.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about a game I played last weekend against our friend and listener Tim.
Hi, Tim.
His Death Guard that he brought. It was it was a very casual thing. 2,500 points, 2 super heavies or Lords of War per side. Sort of just more of a fun thing than a serious battle.
Yeah.
And I was using the new Guard Codex, and he was using the new Death Guard. And I just rolled over him, man. I got the first turn, and that was that.
Ugh.
Well,
with 2 super heavies, you're gonna have a hell of a lot of an Alpha Strike.
Right. Yeah. And
did you have your Trojan next to the Shadow Sword too?
I had my Trojan. I had my Trojan in between the Shadow Sword and Baneblade.
Shocker.
Yeah, he had Mortarion, but like Mortarion died on turn 1, so I wasn't really too. Though I did shoot like 1,200 points of shit at Mortarion to kill him.
Okay.
So it was an somewhat outsized amount of points that took him down, but he was telling me that like if he had a psychic phase, it would have been twice as hard to kill him.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun though. Tim's a great guy, and playing against Death Guard's cool. They've got a lot of funky rules and are very, very tough. It's just a lot of times if Guard goes first, it's with super heavies especially, it's very, very hard to catch up. What about you? What have you been playing?
So I was in a doubles tournament. So I played in a doubles tournament a while ago at Alpha Omega, the hobby store in Quincy, and they ran another one this time around. And this time they had like stricter timeline missions in place before the game started, and people seem to have a lot more fun because of that. They were open to a lot of feedback from the last one. The last event wasn't that well run, and this one was run pretty tightly.
It's almost like they're learning.
Yeah, which honestly, people learning in this hobby, I'll take it. But I again went with my friend John, and instead of bringing 72 Fire Warriors like last time, he brought a bunch of Dreadnoughts and Razorbacks with his Iron Hands. I brought Templars and a Crusader and a Rhino with some other stuff. Game 1 was against pre-heresy World Eaters, using finger quotes here, because they're using Iron Hands rules, and they're all Devastators, buff characters, and Land Speeders.
That's what I think of when I think of World Eaters, is Devastators and Land Speeders. Yeah,
you think of guys hiding in the backfield and never coming out of cover. And they're allied with, here's a fun one, Grey Knights doing Paladin MSU with like a couple of guardsmen just to kind of fill out some points. I hated this game. I hated this game. There's nothing good to say about it. My stuff just got tied up over and over again and shot to pieces, and it was just not fun to play against. And they seized on us.
That sounds like I'm so not surprised from hearing what they had to learning that the game wasn't any fun.
Yeah, and it's like I try to be pretty positive and like engage with people I'm playing with, but they also just weren't really open to talking that much. It was weird. It was not my favorite game, and
that's one of those things. I was at the DC Auto Show last winter or spring.
A hub for Warhammer gamers. Who'd have thought?
No, but I saw this guy, and he looked like a neo-Nazi version of Guy Fieri.
Wow.
And
so Fred Durst?
Yeah, kind of. And like I was looking at him. I saw him in line. We were waiting to get in. And I saw him. I was like, man, I just fucking know that guy's going to be an asshole. I just fucking know it. And then like he had his girlfriend there, and he was like being mean to her. Mm-hmm. Like why? He was like, why didn't you bring blah blah blah? I forget what, but he was like being a fucking dick in public to her. And I was like, yep, I knew it.
Yeah, you just
seems like one of those situations where you're just like, yeah, I knew this game was gonna suck right from the moment you started pulling out your fucking army.
Yep. Game 2 was against Dark Angels and Death Guard, and again another very fluffy combination. But they were both new players who were super awkward, like not unfriendly, but just really awkward. And we called it on turn 4 when we had basically tabled them and we'd lost 3 tactical marines.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so it was like, oh, this is what it's like to be on the other side of a bad game.
So your first 2 games of your doubles tournament was y'all got killed by some unfun dudes, and then you were the unfun dudes that killed the other guy's stuff.
Yeah, no, John, you are the demons, yeah. And so here's where it gets interesting. After game 2, my buddy and I, we finished that second game so fast that lunch break was like 2 hours long. So we went to a pub for dinner. Uh-oh. We had a few drinks.
Uh-oh.
And he outpaced me by a lot. And we get to the store and he's like, yeah, this is a 5-game tournament, right? And I'm like, no, it's a 3-game tournament. He's like, what? So he is genuinely drunk. And I'm like, I had a few beers and I'm comfortable. So we get to the game, and he's kind of like wandering around the store talking to folks and like and socializing with them while I'm setting up both of our armies together.
Very nice.
I fortunately understand how all his stuff works because they're still Space Marines, and I'm against these 2 guys who actually I think they were at Nova, and they had Death Guard and Night Lords, and
did they play in the narrative at Nova?
No, they're in I think they're in the GT, but they were still like, they were really cool guys. Like they were generally great dudes. I'd be happy to play with again. I think one was named Spinny. I don't remember the other guy's name. I'm sorry, guys. But anyway, the deployment had like our whole army in kind of a castle in the middle, like castle formation. They just surrounded me with poxwalkers and cultists and garbage. And they seized on me again because, this is going to keep happening. And they just pulled 60 guys all up into my grill right away. And I just spend the next 4 or 5 turns just wholly concentrating on the game to the exclusion of all else and just playing as well as I can. And at one point, about like turn 3, my teammate comes back towards me and is like, hey, sorry I've been gone for a while. Do you need anything? And I was like, a fucking repulsor. Just give me a repulsor. He says, okay. And he goes and buys me a fucking repulsor. Because like I was just like, okay, I would like repulsor in the situation, but also I'm just kind of like jokingly deflecting him as I play his army for him. And he bought me an expensive tank, so I guess I'm painting his Vespid now. Call back to the commission type thing. So anyway, this game ended up on like the last few die rolls of like rolling for run distance and stuff like that to get to the objectives, and I just barely pulled out a victory, and it felt so good and it was so fun, and my opponents were such good dudes, and I gave them Badcast biz cards after the game, so if they're listening now, it was a pleasure playing with you. You know how to reach out to us. And after that, we got 3rd place, and my teammate was like, here you go, you can take the store credit, you won the actual games. So
that sounds like a ton of fun.
Yeah, no, honestly, 1 out of 3 ain't bad. But a few other observations I made is like, gunline character spam armies are really unfun to play against. Leviathan dreadnoughts, one of which we had, are stupid good.
Yeah, they are.
Crusader squads, which I had, are fucking terrible in close combat. And of the only 3 or 4 of the armies at the event were fully painted, and mine and my teammates were 2 of them, which bummed me out. And the armies that were represented were Space Marines, Chaos Marines, Death Guard, Grey Knights, and Guard. No Xenos at all. Only armies that have codexes.
Wow.
Yeah. So.
I mean, that makes sense, though.
Yeah. But that leads into our next discussion, which is about codex balance and how they're stacking up in this edition.
I wanted to frame this in asking a couple questions about and what we think the answers are. This section is entitled Codex Balance So Far. Because we don't know how everything's going to go down in the future, though. We're getting some glimpses of how it's going to turn out. But I just wanted to talk about the job that GW is doing and how it's affecting things like tournaments and how it's affecting, just casual play between friends. So my first question, Campbell, is who's on top? Who's the current best codex? Who's the strongest codex right now?
From my actual experiences playing games, I'd say Death Guard are probably one of the scarier ones out there because of how resilient the army is and how many mortal wounds they can just spit out all over the table all the time, whether it's just from attacks or psychic powers or just secondary effects. They're so durable and dangerous that I would definitely put them in the top running. However, I have not gotten to play against the Imperial Guard yet, or Astra Militarum if you want to use, the parlance of our times. And from what I hear, they're actually the ones on top right now.
So as a guy who regularly plays Imperial Guard, my Steel Legion, I got to say I think that the Guard are on top. Astra Militarum's on top. I think they have the strongest codex. And I think they were strong in their index, very strong in their index. And now that they have a codex and they get more rules for free and stuff that was okay become very good and stuff that were not good. Well, like the changes, like Baneblades, Super Heavies, they all got a 40-point reduction.
Ooh.
And in the case of the Shadow Sword, the main gun got twice as good.
How?
Twice the amount of average shots. You go from D6 to 3D3.
Oh, geez.
So you're averaging 3.5 with D6 and averaging 6 with 3D3.
Yeah.
So your gun, your tank as a whole takes a 40-point reduction, and you get twice as many shots per turn. It's pretty fucking sick. The Lehman Russes all got a 10-point reduction, and they literally get to shoot twice with their main guns.
So yeah, this is kind of like the pendulum swinging. Like it seems almost like it's overcompensating for some of these things. Like either one could have done just fine, and by doing both, you're getting a little bit ridiculous. That's
exactly what Tim was saying at our game over the weekend. He thought that 40-point reduction for Super Heavies, okay, great. They were too expensive. But did they need their main guns to get a whole lot better? Maybe. I don't know. Same with Russ's. The 10-point reduction and double taps. Ugh. It's tough stuff, man. I think the Guard are at the top. They are extremely good. And I did a thing just because I thought it would be funny in our game is I took the Warlord strategy or Warlord trait, Grand Strategist, which every time I use a kill point or command point on a 5-up, I get it back. And I took the relic, Kurov's Acula. Every time he uses a command point on a 5-up, I get to steal it.
Oh, God.
So, Campbell.
And your list already has like 13 command points in it, right?
I had 12 because I took a brigade and 2 super heavy auxiliary detachments.
For shame.
Yeah, right. So I used 19 during the game. I was counting.
Jesus Christ.
19. I generated 7 extra command points.
And you used all of them.
And there's a fucking stratagem called Vengeance for Cadia, and it's a 1 command point stratagem that when you use it, you select an Astra Militarum unit, and they get to re-roll. This is you do it in the shooting phase or while you're firing Overwatch, and they can re-roll all hits and wounds against any Chaos unit that turn.
And Chaos is pretty prevalent, so there's a good chance you're going to get to use that.
Well, when you're playing Death Guard against Death Guard, you're going to use it every single turn, and that's what I fucking did. I was like, hey, my Baneblade. Yeah, Baneblade will be avenging Cadia this turn. Or, my Shadow Sword. Yeah, my Shadow Sword will avenge. Oh, my Mana Core is going to avenge Cadia this turn. So, it was... I think it was even if I had the second turn in the game, I think it would have been an uphill battle for Tim because the codex is that fucking strong.
Well, you figure what are the best things right this minute? You've got access to a lot of cheap psychers who can spit out smite, and that's super powerful. And
40 points for a Primaris psyker.
They have good vehicles, and the way you counter vehicles is by tying them up in hand-to-hand combat. But because you can get so many guards in for so cheap, you can screen your vehicles really easily.
Yeah, and this one's gross. There is a stratagem called Crush Them, which is 2 command points, and you use it when in the assault phase, in the charge phase rather. The charge sub phase of the assault phase, whatever. You use it, and the tank, the vehicle. For an Imperial Guard vehicle. That vehicle can charge even if it has advanced, and it hits on a 2-up with its attacks in the fight phase, in the next fight phase.
I'm glad they made Drive Me Closer. I want to hit them with my sword into an actual order you can give your tanks.
With a Lehman Rust, it's not a big deal. You're talking about 3 strength 8 attacks.
Yeah.
Which, whatever. But with a Baneblade, a full health Baneblade. You know how many attacks it has, Campbell?
8?
9.
Why?
You know how many? You know what the strength is?
16?
9.
Okay.
You know what the AP is?
There's an AP on it?
-2.
What's the damage?
D3.
Jesus Christ.
It's 9 Power Fist attacks.
That's
hitting on 2s. So if you get too close with like a big gnarly dreadnought or something, my Baneblade's just gonna be like, fuck that thing. Shoot at it in the shooting phase with all its fucking guns, and then it's gonna fucking run it over in the assault phase. It's a very, very nasty, nasty book. To the point where I think that if you look at the other Imperial codices that are currently out, which is Grey Knights and Space Marines, it outstrips them by far. Our friend JD on the Something Awful forums was talking about how the Space Marine Codex just pales in comparison to it, and it really does. Their Space Marines they've still got some great units. They still have some great combos and things they can do, but the Guard, their whole thing is they can get high damage stuff for cheap. And high damage stuff is great when you have a lot of it. And when you can defend it with cheap troops that really don't do anything except take up space and act as roadblocks, I mean, it's a tough nut to crack.
Yeah, it's the right confluence of things that just really work in this edition. And you can even go one step further with terrain for 8th edition really should be a lot of line of sight blocking terrain, like heavily leans on line of sight blocking terrain to do the job.
You need it,
Yeah, and Guard have a lot of things that don't care about line of sight. Right.
The artillery stuff got somewhat. It's relative. It's not the artillery stuff is still the same, and none of the Guards have changed for artillery. But relatively, it got worse because other selections got better, such as Russes and super heavies. But still, those basilisks sitting in the corner just shooting at whatever the fuck they want is very strong. Same with the Manicore. The Death Strike, there's a 3 CP stratagem that makes Death Strikes extremely scary.
Which one?
It's called Vortex Missile.
Oh.
And you get to re-roll all your missed hits. And so the way the what do you call it? The Death Strike works is 3d6 shots, and each hit, it hits on a 4-up, each hit is a mortal wound. And then for any enemy unit within 6 inches of the unit that got hit by the Death Strike, on a 4-up, they take D3 mortal wounds.
Okay.
So the Vortex Missile is what it is you get to re-roll all of your missed hits. So 3d6 shots on 4s with re-rolls. And then you add 1 to the roll to see if units within 6 inches get D3 mortal wounds.
Good gravy.
So it's still not a very good thing because it usually won't fire until turn 3 or 4, when it should be dead at that point. But it makes it a little scarier.
Yeah, and that's a lot of resources to commit to getting one dumb gimmick shot off per game.
So I think the Space Marine Codex is pretty well balanced, and I think relative to the Grey Knights or the Death Guard or the Chaos, I think they're all well balanced to one another, but I think the Guard Codex exists on a higher tier.
I think also guard having access, like easier access to filling out things like the big old detachments, because you can fill 3 fast attack choices for 3 cheapo sentinels or whatever. Like you can get those command points that other armies can't get as easily. Like I've been building to kind of get to do that with my Black Templars, but that's still like a 2,500 point list before I can get that many command points.
Right. I'm like working on my list for Adepticon for my Primaris Raven Guard. And listeners, before you write in and tell me, Dan, your Primaris Marines aren't going to do that great. I know. I don't care. I'm doing it for fun. I think I can, out of 2,000 points, I don't even know if Adepticon stuff I'm going to be playing is at 2,000 points, but I'm just building 2,000 points. I only have 7 command points. And I look at that, I'm like, whoa, what do I do with that? How do I do anything? I need rerolls for everything. Well, maybe because they're Marines and they hit better, I won't need so many rerolls. You
say that, but you should watch me play.
So my next bullet point on my show notes is a little bit, and we've already kind of covered it. What it says is, "What them is so good."
I'm sorry?
I think I forgot to put in the word "what makes them so good."
Makes. Okay.
We are so. My next question to you, Campbell, is: where's the spam? What are people spamming so far? What are we seeing a lot of that? We want to maybe find a way around. I'll tell you, there's something. There's someone, I should say.
Yeah, just walking around all the tables at Nova gave us a pretty good look at the handful of buff characters that are just owning the day, which are...
It's Bobby G. It's fucking Bobby G.
Although Celestine's also in a similar wheelhouse.
Bobby G and Celestine and Magnus. I mean, Magnus is all over Nova. But I think specifically Bobby G and Celestine are all over the meta for 40K right now. You look at tournament results and top tables. I mean, that's such a strong combo, having them both in the same army.
Yeah, and isn't it fortunate that they can both slot into Imperial Guard, no problem?
I don't have either one, man. I guess what I'm saying is I'm not that much of a power gamer, says the guy with a Vulture and a Trojan and a Shadow Sword. And a bunch of artillery.
For what's worth, the artillery and the Shadow Sword before they were good.
It's true, I did. Though not the Trojan and the Vulture. There's a I guess character spam is back, and I'm not. I should say specific character, special character spam. With Bobby G is common on almost every table. I think Mortarion, you're going to see a lot of him because he's just a murder machine. If you can hide him early, and he flies around because he's got big fucking wings. If you can hide him early on, well, if you're playing on a table with enough line of sight blocking terrain, you should be able to hide him, right?
I think I might be able to hide him behind like my computer monitor, but this is a big boy. He's a big boy.
He's not as big as Magnus.
Really?
He's a little. He's a little bit smaller than Magnus.
All right. He's still a large, smelly boy. But yeah, like character spam in general, not just special characters, but characters in general, because of all the buffs and boosts and rerolls they can give to guys around them. It's like a different flavor of Hero Hammer to what it used to be. It used to be you'd have one hero and your army was just kind of escorting him to where he needs to fight, and now you have the heroes at the centers of your armies, and they're buffing all the guys around them.
Buford.
And Guard can do that really easily with like a lot of cheap characters buffing their morale and buffing
Space Marines do it better than Guard do. Chaos Space Marines do it better than Guard do.
Ooh, that's true.
Because Guard, you have to pick. A commander doesn't just automatically buff everybody around him. You have to, we're not talking about the special characters. We're talking about the regular characters. But with the Space Marine captain, it's just everybody around him. Now, Campbell, I don't have a problem with that.
No. I feel like it can lead to points when you have too many things overlapping that you start getting maybe combinations that are, if you're not playing that combination and the other guy is, you're going to get wrecked.
That'll happen. Okay, so that was I was leading up to or thinking about another question for you, and it's in 8th. How many of your games are close or are blowouts?
It's been actually pretty much either really close or total blowout. I've had very few just that was all right, could have gone either way sort of games. Like they're either like down to the last few die rolls or one person just wipes the floor with the other guy.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the percentages. Like what % of your games do you think are total blowouts or super close.
You want to see my win-loss draw ratio, my DACA signature right now? So just as a kind of sample here, like let's do with my doubles tournament thing I did. It was a blowout against me, a blowout from me, and then a dead close game in the middle. So, I mean, I guess that'd be 1 out of 3 games are good games, which is kind of depressing. But I guess it's also that's not the environment I typically play in.
Well, I think again, playing guard over here, when I'm playing against guard, like I had a few weeks ago against my bud Evan, that was a close game. Could have gone either way. But playing against these smaller model count armies are pretty much just my enemy runs out of models on turn 4 or 5, and I've still got tons.
Yeah, you still got more to go.
It's I think that most of the time when I play in 8th edition, it's been one-sided.
Yeah.
And I'd rather see some more close games. I don't know what GW can do to fix that, but I'd rather see some more or rather play some more close games. So my question to you, Campbell, is Games Workshop doing a good job with writing their codices?
It's not that I think they're doing a bad job, but I do think because not like there's like a dominant unit that people are just spamming just that and they're winning every game because of it. Save for like Bobby G, like the big character type thing. But like it's not like people are just taking
they specifically had to change conscripts because people were taking blocks of 50.
Yeah,
and you just couldn't shoot through them.
I'm glad the company is mobile enough that they can make changes like that. And I'm hoping that when the chapter approved book comes out this Christmas, it'll balance things out a little bit. Hopefully they'll be able to get some data on the Imperial Guard games by then to kind of figure out how to reel that back a little bit. Oh, excuse me.
I think they're doing a pretty good job.
I think they're generally doing a pretty good job.
I don't mind the game being character driven. I think that's actually kind of a plus that you're getting. I love the auras. I love the aura system for like what characters actually do on the battlefield. Because it used to be, your Space Marine captain was just like he kind of had to be there, and he was just like he was kind of good in combat. But now you put him down in a group of like some dangerous shit, and you got yourself a nice little firebase, or you throw him with some guys that are gonna try to fuck somebody up in combat, and you got yourself a nice little mean combat unit.
Yeah, I really like that they do lead now. They aren't just beat sticks who run into each other. I like that a lot. The problem is just if the other guy's bringing like a really synergistic list with a lot of characters that are feeding into each other, and you're not, you're going to get beat up real bad, which I think is one of the reasons why I've personally been wanting to get better at this game, because I've been playing against a lot of lists that have that, and as a result, it's an uphill battle at best for me. And the lists that don't have that are the ones that I tend to wipe off the board.
I think there's like list building, and the conversation about what should you build your list to is kind of back.
Yeah, it's more of it feels more conscious in what you should be building. But on the other side, I feel like there's more viable alternatives than just net list or lose, which I guess there used to be when it came to competitive gaming.
I would agree with that. I think there's not a whole lot of ways you can go wrong for each different codex. Now the indexes or indices or whatever are a different thing. They're clearly incomplete. We will eventually get to completion with them when when Necrons and Orcs and Nids or whatever get their own codexes. Mm-hmm. I'm excited to see what they do with the Tyranids. We're looking at the Eldar stuff that they're coming out with, and there's a lot of interesting things coming out there, but they're doing the same thing that they did with the Space Marine chapters, the Chaos Marine legions, the Imperial Guard regiments, is you get like some sort of trait for just calling yourself an army. And one of the things is they're repeating a lot of these.
Yeah, it's kind of a shame, but I understand that you have so many different varieties of each army. Because previously there was just AdMech. There was nothing but AdMech. There was just them, and they had to come up with a bunch of planets or whatever, forges or whatever, to give them all the special rules.
They have a codex.
Yeah,
nobody plays them.
Yeah,
our friend Tim of the Crew Shaken podcast does.
Yeah, Nice plug.
I'm plugging everybody. I'm plugging all my friends. Yeah, so
Dan,
one of the
Dan
things...
the plugger Boyd, but
you got to come up with them quicker than that.
I know. I'm
one of the
slow
things
today.
that, with my Raven Guard, -1 to hit at more than 12 inches. The Alpha Legion, -1 to hit, more than 12 inches. Alitak Craft World, -1 to hit, more than 12 inches. One of the Forge Worlds probably has that.
One of them definitely does.
One of the, Blood Axes orcs might get that. I
can almost guarantee they will.
Or, they'll get that outflanky shit that Talarn guys get to use.
Or both.
So, do you have a problem with them having, this, almost deck of selections in front of them and being like, oh, well, Alatok Craft World, they're kind of sneaky. They have a lot of rangers, so we're going to give them this. And then we're going to give Ulthway Iron Hands stuff, so they get the Feel No Pain on a 6. And then we're going to give Sam Hain can advance and charge and all this speedy stuff. Are you okay with them reusing these things?
So long as it makes sense for the army, I think so. Because, whatever, these 3 armies all have the -1 to hit them before, or hit them now, but before they might have just all had camo cloaks in their guys, which gave them stealth or whatever. I get there is, when you have between 7 and 9, sub-factions per army, you're gonna start to get some overlap, because previously they'd need to come up with a special ability for, Marines, for Guard, whatever, and now they have to come up with 9 that work across an entire army. My only problem is the fact that the Space Marine ones only apply to infantry and dreadnoughts, and all the rest apply to everything. Every other army apparently has them on everything. I might be wrong, but generally, Guard have a tank one and an infantry one. They get both. I think AdMech get them the whole army. No one plays them, so I can't tell.
No, AdMech gets them for the whole army. Yeah, and I don't know. I don't know what the deal is for Eldar, but I don't know. I mean, we'll see.
Yeah, and Marines just get them for their troops and their dreadnoughts. And that's not just me being like, oh no, I'm a Marine fanboy and my guys aren't the best, so I'm pissed off. No, it's just I just don't like the inconsistency.
So you're not being JD?
Not this time.
Oh, you hear that, JD?
I'm not wearing an anime shirt.
Hear that? Fucking fight me.
He'd probably beat you up. He's in good shape.
He's in shape. Yeah. I think that GW is doing a pretty good job. I wish that they would get a little more creative.
I agree
with their doctrines, regiment doctrines, or chapter tactics or whatever.
You can kind of tell when they had the A team on, when they had the B team on those. Because with the Space Marine ones, it's okay, these are cool, I get them. And then with the AdMech, you're like, oh, they're the same ones, gotcha. And then the Guard come out and they have 2 for each one, and they're different. They're not all just retreads of the same thing.
I will say it's very flavorful.
Yeah,
what's going on, and I like that the rules are representing the traditions of whatever chapter or whatever regiment or whatever Forge World or Chaos Legion or Craft World or I would imagine whatever Tyranid High Fleet or Orc Clan or Necron Tomb World, or whatever the distinctions are. I'm glad that there's flavor in there, but I want to see some different things.
Yeah,
I don't want to be like, oh, so that's the Tyranid Raven Guard, or that's the Orc Iron Hands. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear you. But I like that it's flavor that doesn't just get lost in the shuffle. Because there was some flavor in 7th edition where it's oh, these guys cause fear, and I'm like, cool, that's gonna come up sometimes, I'm sure. That's flavorful, but never comes up. So these are flavorful, and they tend to come up most of the time, or at least in most games. And I like that they're both usable and characterful, even if you do see some repeated ones.
And if you want to talk with us about this topic, Codex Balance, and what you think of the of how the job that Games Workshop is doing and what you've been experiencing in your games, feel free to drop us a line. Contact at 40kbadcast.com, or you can get at us at Twitter. We'll give those out at the end of the show. We want to hear from you. I love having conversations with people about 40K. I do it on a fucking podcast every 2 weeks. So get at us if you want to. But let's move on. You, Campbell, texted me the other day with some very exciting news.
So you may recall last week that or last week, 3 weeks ago, that we were trying to settle the debate. Strachan versus Yarick. Superman versus Goku. Who's going to win here?
Yeah.
And, well, it just so happened that
Yarick
our
is
good
Superman,
friend...
by the way. He's not Goku. Don't even fucking start.
Okay, how about Colonel John Matrix versus RoboCop?
Okay.
All right,
I'm fine with it. I'm fine. Whatever. Keep going. I'm sorry I fucking interrupted you.
Our good friend Peter, a.k.a. Iron Hand Dolan, and I tried to settle the debate. Now, I'm typically on Team Strachan, but he is Catachan to the core, so I took the role of Yarick for this. So
he literally cosplayed a Catachan jungle fighter the entire weekend we were at his house playing Warhammer.
Yes, he did, as he opened bottles with a machete. So...
And then just fucking like went off into the woods for a couple of hours. And we were all worried about him. He came back. He's like, there's nothing to fucking worry about. I don't know why you guys are fucking worried about me. It's hilarious.
Except he's a little more serene than that. Yeah. So we start by getting into character. So I have a mug of Tana tea, as befits a member of the commissariat, and he has some whiskey. And I figure... I don't have a giant bionic arm, but I do have a pair of salad tongs that I can put in my right hand instead. And we then went on to play a theoretical simultaneous combat scenario where the two characters would clash. So, just rolling the dice and having them fight round by round by round with a shooting phase in between each melee phase. And again, all simultaneous, just try to keep it as level and fair as possible. First things first, it is really hard to roll dice with salad tongs for a hand. It is even harder to write with salad tongs for a hand. And it's almost impossible to do push-ups with salad tongs for a hand because that came up too, you believe me. So at first, the idea was we would do best 2 out of 3. And Yarick lost the first 2 rounds in a row. So I said, okay, how about first 2-3? And he's like, all right, sure, fine. And Yarick proceeded to win the next 3 games in a row. Every single round, save for one of them, had Yarick die and get back up. Because Strachan would just punch him out right away, and I would just roll that 3 up and get back up. So, in the end, Yarick does technically beat Strachan in single combat.
Fuck yes.
But only with some good die rolls, and only after changing the rules.
It's a Pyrrhic victory is still a victory.
That's the Imperial Guard way.
That's awesome. I knew it. I had no doubts in my mind.
It was close though. Every single one except for I think the 5th one, Yarick lost all his wounds and just got back up.
Nice.
Can't keep an old man down.
No, you cannot. All right, man. Let's talk about our global campaign.
So, update from the Badcast campaign. In round 3, which if you might recall was a mission called Sweet Self-Own Bro, where the job was to make an army list, swap it with your opponent, and then have the battle as we outlined in the last episode. Well, it turns out the fuckboys are pretty good at owning themselves.
Yes.
So the fuckboys did win this round, which was the round with the lowest attendance rating of any one of our missions so far. If you're paying attention, and which... Even after that, though, the bad boys are still up by 2 games, which, if you're keeping count, they were up by 3 games last time, so you can probably make a good guess at how many games of this were sent in.
Oh, no.
So the bad boys are still up by 2 games, although the fuck boys, they did win round 3. So I'm figuring, I don't remember what the rules were, but it was going to, well, never mind. It was going to be 5 rounds anyway, so there will not be a tie, God forbid. If there is a tie, then we'll break it down to who won the most games.
If there is a tie,
as opposed to who won each week.
Then I'm taking the fucking train up to Boston, and we're gonna throw down, and then I'll take the train back the very next day.
And you'll be on that train for like 8 hours each way.
Yeah, it's
you'll be kind of bored.
I like the train. It's nice.
I do too.
Right.
Only too low. All right.
Round 4.
Round 4. So this is a mission called Juice Money. Your warlord, the Juice Dad, has decided that instead of buying juice for his troops, he would spend all his money on more Warhammer models for himself. As a result, there is a shortage of juice to go around the army, and your troops are weaker for it. Every unit in your army is at -1 toughness and -1 leadership, except your warlord, who operates normally. Your warlord, however, has enough juice to feed 1 unit in your army per turn. You nominate a unit within 12 inches of your warlord, and that unit does not suffer the -1 toughness or -1 leadership penalty. This can be the same unit every turn, or a different one if you like. The deployment type is Dawn of War, and there are 3 objectives on the table along the center line. one dead center, one 18 to the left, one 18 to the right. And each of these is another juice reserve. One unit on a juice reserve can take the juice and they'll no longer suffer the -1 toughness or -1 leadership penalty.
For the whole game or just that turn?
As long as they're holding it.
Okay.
If a warlord is killed, they become a juice reserve, as they were hoarding that juice for themselves. If they die within 6 inches of an existing juice reserve, move the new juice reserve, God, that's hard to say, so that it is 6 inches from any other juice reserve or board edge. At the end of the game, whoever holds the most juice reserves wins. A surviving warlord counts as held juice for the controlling player.
So, Campbell, I have a question.
Yeah.
What the fuck are you talking about?
So, this is a story that is the old something awful story about this guy, Tag?
Ty.
What? Ty.
It's an Irish name. It's pronounced Ty.
He had a really strange game store with a lot of weird stories that came out of it. And one of them is about a guy who came in, a dad, with his wife and daughter. And the guy had a stack of receipts for things he put into the consignment case there, and he's looking to see if anything had sold. And as the person behind the counter was listing things off that have sold, his wife gave a cheer, and the little girl did a little dance. And so far seems so good, right? Then the little girl says, "Yay, does that mean that I can get juice this week?" The mom replies, "Yes, it does." And the dad adds, "Yep, and if the other ones are sold, then maybe I can get some of the new Grey Knights." And apparently this is a guy who would come in, buy a ton of stuff, then sell it off at consignment price a few weeks later to purchase the next army. And it got so bad that it meant his kid couldn't have juice. So now is your opportunity to be the juice dad.
Everybody wants to be a juice dad.
Who wouldn't?
I know I do. I actually like this mission a whole lot.
Yeah, I think this is a cool mission, even if the story behind it is more than a little bit tragic. I'll be posting this to 40kbadcast.com/campaign along with our other 3 missions, and you can send in your results of your games to contact@40kbadcast.com, pledging loyalty to either the fuck boys or the bad boys to see who will be in control of the 40k Badcast for the foreseeable future.
So last round was just a little too difficult to organize. Honestly,
Yeah.
I'm not surprised that we didn't get a whole lot of interest in reporting that time. Just because it's like you got to get your friend and be like, all right, we got to make bad lists, and then swap them. It just seems like that game would probably take 5 hours. Because you might be playing an army that you don't know.
Yeah, more likely than not.
We're learning, guys. We're trying to get better at this. We're learning. We're just dumb children. All right, let's go. Let's do it. Let's do our favorite segment, fact or fan fiction. You told me via text message the other night that you had something real bad for me this week, so I'm ready. My body is ready.
It better be, because it's about to get a little fast in here. Chapter 1: Breath of a Hero. At age 3, Glen's abilities as a psychic were noted by the Ultramarines, and Marnius Calgar himself came to investigate the young hedgehog. Upon meeting Glen, Marnius could feel the chaos coming from the child and ordered his Marines to kill him, but Glen instinctively teleported away from all the shots behind the attacking Marines. Then he took the light from their eyes, making them fire at each other and kill each other. This display of skill in such a young hedgehog impressed even Calgar, who at that very moment noticed the Ultramarines chapter logo standing out boldly on Glen's chest.
Oh, God.
It was his birthright to lead the Ultramarines. One took the fledgling hedgehog back to McCragg and started to teach his new apprentice the ways of the Ultramarines. 10 years later. Glen's 13th birthday is coming up soon, like mine, and the chapter had all gathered to celebrate last year on his 12th birthday. Glen and his squad were traipsed on a Tyranid planet, and his squad was wiped. Was so angry, he killed the whole Tyranid infestation, and after his birth, championed the Ultramarine war against the Tyranids, pushing them out of his human-controlled space. After the war, Glen gained the title The Fister because of his use of power fists as his main weapons, also with the psychokinesis, of course. But this year, he was here, and he was ready to party! But then, he ate a bad shrimp ring and was sick during his birthday. It is today that will change his life forever. When all of the other Ultramarines were getting ready to surprise him, not that they could because he could see the future, that is when Shadow appeared. "Where is my son, Glen?" Shadow yelled, scarcely making one Marines die of fright. Shadow was tired of waiting. "I'm tired of waiting," Shadow said, "but at least I can kill all of you fools and take the shard of Horus you fools think you're hiding. Chaos control! As he yelled, this Glen knew something bad was happening, so he ran to the main hall, purging the sickness from his body with his psychokinese, and entered the main hall. Everyone was dead. Who did this? Glen thought to himself. Who could and who would? After that, thought he noticed that Marnius was still alive. Are you okay, Sensei? Glen shouted.
No.
Marnius nodded, then coughed up some blood.
Glen,
hurts. Listen to me. You have to stop him. You
my
have to
body.
stop your father. And then he died. No! 11111. Glen shouted. The man that was like his father died.
I hate this.
End scene.
That's so bad. Why do you have to be a fucking hedgehog? What the fuck, man?
I'm trying to think if my favorite part is the part where he teleported behind the Space Marines and took control of them, made them kill each other as a 3-year-old, or on his 13th birthday when Shadow the Hedgehog showed up.
Shadow the Hedgehog?
Yeah, that's the evil version of Sonic the Hedgehog. He uses a gun. That's actually in the games too.
There's something about like Sonic that like makes people fucking weird, man.
Yeah,
There's
it's
a
like
lot of weird shit around that fucking hedgehog.
like it's not even just like the gateway to the furry thing. It's its own weird flavor of strange.
Well, Campbell, we know what that was. That was a particularly painful example of fan fiction.
That was Glen the Hedgehog by the true hero Glen.
Oh, it was a self-insert hedgehog.
What other kind is there?
That's
And after all,
That's
he
interesting. That's interesting. I should have realized that when the hedgehog's name was fucking Glen.
That's the thing. It's like, yeah, like Sonic and Shadow and Knuckles and like names that are like cartoon character names. And this guy's name is just fucking Glen.
Has anybody okay, I'm sorry for the millions of Glens that listen to this show, but is anybody named Glen ever cool?
I think it's in the running with Kevin's.
I know a couple of cool Kevins.
I don't.
Kevo, old Kev. I don't know any cool Glens. I've never heard of a cool Glen. Famous Glens? Are there any famous Glens? Glenn Danzig,
Close.
he sucks. Glenn Close does kick ass. I'm thinking dude Glens, though. There's no cool dude Glens.
Send in
people.
your cool Glens.
Send us pictures of cool Glens at contact@40kbadcast.com. That segues nicely.
Or tweet cool Glens at us. Where can they tweet at us, Dan?
Well, if you want to tweet some cool Glens at me, I'm at DB_sleazy on Twitter or DZBZ via the search bar. And if you want to tweet cool Glens at Campbell, why don't you take a search for Brother SRM?
Or also, at the moment, I think it's Camboo McGoolglin because I'm getting spooky because it's Halloween times.
That's my favorite Twitter tradition is people making very dumb Halloween jokes in their Twitter names. Campbell, how else can they reach you? Because Twitter's not the only way.
No, it is not. You can check out my Tumblr page where I post pictures of my Warham stuff. It's cam2d.tumblr.com. I just posted my Contemptor the other day. I should post that Crusader Squad pretty soon. I also run a YouTube channel, youtube.com/camhammer show. It's called Camhammer. Who'da thunk it?
What was your last video?
The heat staining effect that I did on the weapons of the Contemptor Dreadnought. So if you want to know how to make that cool heat stainy shimmery effect on your weapons or what have you, check that out.
I am definitely actually going to use that for my Redemptor Dreadnought.
I look forward to seeing how you do with it.
It'll probably be not as good as yours.
It ain't that hard. If it was hard, I wouldn't be making a tutorial for how to do it.
Right? So please get at us. Contact at 40kbadcast.com. Send us your results for round 4 of the 40k Badcast global campaign. Send us pictures of your models, pictures of your beautiful faces. I don't fucking care. Just send us
some
shit.
cool Glens.
Yeah, cool Glens. We need to learn about more Glens. So if there's any cool Glens or cool Wikipedia articles about cool Glens, just send them on over, man. Do it.
Yeah,
Please.
Yeah, we always love hearing from you. And also, like, one guy just wrote to us the other day. His name is Swazu45, probably not his Christian name, but he wrote this really cool story about his beloved box knot dreadnought, and that was super fun to read. So thank you for sending that in, and as well as all the rest of you send us pictures and stories and all the other cool stuff.
And while you're at it, while you're doing internet shit, why don't you go over to iTunes and give us a review? Doesn't have to be a good one. It could be a bad review. I don't fucking care. Just give us a review.
If we like it, we might even read it on the show.
Yeah, we've read a few of them, though we haven't done that in a while.
Yeah, we should.
Maybe I should. You know what?
What?
I'm gonna fucking turn on iTunes right now and see if I can't find some reviews. All right, so here's a good review that we got last month by Scales, user Scales on iTunes, says, like the most insidious of heretics, they lulled me into a sense of false security with their amiable banter and fantastic hobby discussion. Then they led my unwitting gaze right into the gaping maw of Fulgrim's hole, and in that dank abyssal chasm, I saw the Eye of Terror.
And personally, I'm a fan of one also from last month by Dan6780409. Skeletor and Owen Wilson talk for an hour about a hobby they hate. A throbbing 5 out of 5.
It's never been more clear. We should put that on our fucking business cards next time we do business cards.
I'll put that on my fucking LinkedIn.
All right, let's get out of here, man. Do you have a quote for me?
I do. Heresy begets retribution. Retribution begets reloading.
There it is, folks. Thanks for listening to episode 19. We'll be back in 2 weeks with episode 20. And we'll see you next time on the 40K Badcast.
Send us your cool cards.
Gimme them Glens, motherfucker. Give them to me hot.
Give them to me cool.
Gimme them Glens, motherfucker. Or Campbell's gonna get shot. Ba-bang, bang.
Ow!
Gimme them Glens, motherfucker. I don't know any cool Glens.
Nor
So
do
gimme
I.
them Glens, motherfucker. Because I need a new fucking friend.
Whoa.
Shit, yeah, son. What's up?